What's up, Nakapon?
Hey, what's going on? Sorry, I'll be home in like 2 minutes.
All good, no worries.
How's
Don't
things with you?
uh don't get into an accident on our behalf.
No, everything's good. Everything's good here. Thank you.
Love to see it.
Yeah, but
Okay. So we're using Zoom this time. So we have all the committee members are automatically converted into panelists. And then we have some attendees from the community, as well as our guest speaker today, Johnny Bailey, from HIPS, the Harm Reduction and Community Engagement Organization, as well as our MPD captain, Macaulay Murphy. So I'm gonna promote them both to panelists right now, and then we can get started with the meeting. Right. Okay, I think that worked. All right, wonderful. Well, to kick off the ANC 1B Public Safety Committee's second meeting, my name is Francois Berriot. I'm the Commissioner for Advisory Neighborhood Commission Single Member District 1B02. Uh, and I'm going to start this meeting by taking roll. So, Nakapan, are you here? And apologies, is that the correct pronunciation? I'm trying to remember.
oh yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's good. Yes,
Okay,
and I'm
perfect.
here.
Perfect. And Leah, are you here?
Yes.
Okay, present. And Claire, present. All right, great. And Karen is unfortunately sick, our fourth committee member, so she cannot make it today. And we wish her a speedy recovery. All right, well, I think to dive right into it and to not take up too much of Johnny's time, because he very kindly offered to come speak with us at 7 p.m. on a day with beautiful weather. We have our guest speaker today, Johnny Bailey, who helps run HIPS, which is a really important organization that does offers a lot of whole suite of services to help communities that are dealing with drug abuse and drug use and yeah, I'll let him, introduce himself and talk about HIPS and the work that he does and his ideas for the community, and then we can open it up to questions to community members as well as committee members. I want you all to get in some questions, and I have some questions myself as well. So, Johnny, I'll let you kick it off.
Excellent, thank you. I'll be brief to make sure there's time for questions and everything. I think most of these things go better conversationally than they really do
Totally.
listening to me talk for whatever allotment of time. So we're basically a community organization. We have a little bit of everything going on. Like at the main office, there's lunches, we have showers, we have laundry, we do Suboxone, we do needle exchange, Narcan, de-escalation training, uh, condom distribution, returning citizens, a little everything. I run several recovery support groups. We also run a grief group. And I'm very specifically from the manager of the hotspot program, which is designated areas that not necessarily, they're not like the worst areas. They're areas that like creative solutions and ideas are being called for, and more like actual attention to like the community and having someone really be more part of the community than just driving around in a van. And that's a lot of what I'm doing in this area. We act very much as a go-between with different social services. We streamline everything. I may be able to help you with anything. If I don't, I absolutely know who can, and we'll get that taken care of. I have the ability to put people in Ubers and send them right off to treatment or to different programs. We're out there. We have snacks and water always. So, and I think, and also one of the things I'm most excited that we've been doing recently is kind of a safe passage program because it proved a thesis that has long time been like not been really willing to be proved, is that we can actually really work with an elementary school and without any issues, without any violence or police or anything, we're able to actually move folks along, and we've taken the problem of folks hanging out in front of Cleveland and managed to actually deal with that. At least while kids are coming in and out of school now, I have people who go over there who know everybody, who just remind them that it's time to move along, and they do. So that's just an example. And we're really just always there trying to come. I work with Right Proper on a lot of different things. We come there for Sunday brunch just to pick up anything that might be there before and take care of it. And I'm just kind of always looking at different programs and ideas because to me, this is about being part of the community. Everything comes through town halls and conversations like this that lead to what we actually do.
Great. Thank you so much for that overview. Does anybody have any questions or any topics they want to discuss with Johnny to start us off?
I wrote down a few things. Hi, I'm Leah. Nice to meet you.
Hey, good to
And
meet you.
I'll start with the one that I think, the most interested to hear about. I would love to know anything that's like either options for who to call if someone is experiencing a crisis or requires some sort of assistance that isn't necessarily the police, that has sort of resources that do exactly what HIPS does, but might be able to respond very quickly. Or if they're like you had mentioned that you guys do de-escalation training and Narcan
Yeah.
distribution. Is there, I was also just wondering if there is Narcan training that,
I will line up Narcan. I'm a certified DBH trainer. I will line up Narcan training pretty much whenever with whoever. The next time I'm doing it, I believe, is with Reverend Judy's organization over at Lincoln Westmore. We're doing something in early April, but I'm also very happy to do it just about any time. As far as the DBH, there is a DBH funded like social work van, and I can get their number for you for sure. But that's who I would recommend calling in case of mental health issues or something that because they're unfortunately I'm not staffed at this time to be 24 hours. I would love to be. I would love to have a van and go places 24 hours, but it only feels like I work 24. I'm kidding.
I guess then as a follow-up, is that the best option for if someone does require care and HIPS is closed?
Yeah. I would say the DVH response response team. I'm on my phone Googling their number right now. If anybody wants it, I can put it in the chat even. Is there a chat? There's a chat. All right.
I think there should be.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Great. Did anybody else have any other topics or questions they wanted to discuss? Any of the other committee members? I can go real quick if nobody else said anything. Um, you know, let's see. I had a list of questions here. One sec. Um, all right, just one sec here. Yeah, I was curious, Johnny, if you think the problem of, drug abuse and overdoses has gotten worse in recent years. And I feel like I've heard varying things from neighbors, and I'm curious what your perspective is on this.
All right.
And if it has gotten worse, then maybe why? What you think is contributing to that?
So overdose for the first time in a minute has gone down this year,
Mm-hmm.
but it has gotten worse really objectively since 2020, and that's
Yeah.
because of fentanyl. During the pandemic, you saw a lot of people, it wasn't getting poppies from Afghanistan, wasn't the same thing, and it was creeping in. And you
Mm-hmm.
saw your earlier deaths were all people who are 50 or over, have been using for 20 years or more was a statistic because it would line up what was a maintenance dose, and it was 50 times that dose. So
Mm-hmm.
with the introduction of fentanyl and now xylazine, the ODs have gotten worse. I don't know that I'd say the drug problem has gotten worse. It shifts,
Mm-hmm.
it moves, it changes, but different it moves around different areas. Like Seventh and T has always been a spot when my guys is 60 and their grandfather used to pick up there. They were telling me so. There
Yeah, yeah.
is that, but
Mm-hmm.
I think the situation right now, because of fentanyl, is worse on everybody than it was when it was more traditional. We thought heroin was bad, but this is 50 times heroin.
Yeah, no, that's a sense I got, and I feel like that's helpful context to know because I do think, I hear from neighbors that, oh, it didn't seem like this 5 years ago or before the
Mhm.
pandemic, and I think it's important for everyone to understand what's going on in terms of just what's available now.
You'll see a lot more of the falling out or nodding off or ODing
Mhm.
right now because of it. Whereas you may not have noticed as strongly because people had a little more composure previously sometimes, but things are getting
Mhm.
weird, honestly, is the only word for it. Especially now we've got boot out there too, which is like it is to crystal meth what K2 is to like cannabis, where it's like this synthetic, weird, previously legal version of like mixing chemicals that it's not great.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm curious. I know you mentioned to me before discussions of a of a new center that you'd wanted to hopefully build in the area. I'm curious if you just talk about that and what services it would provide, and how it would help both victims of drug abuse as well as do you think that it could help with reducing the burden that open air drug use places on the community?
Well, we are kind of getting that right now in that area, but we may be getting
Hmm.
even more so in Southwest because Lincoln Westmore, we are getting retail space now. That should be starting
Okay.
shortly. But it's in a building, so there's a lot of like everybody, every time I talk about a center, two things are true. Everybody loves it, loves the idea, no one wants it in their building.
Yeah.
So that's just the way that is, and I understand that. I wouldn't put it in my living room. But
Hmm.
you know, so when it comes down to it, what we're going to be doing there is a lot more. We're going to do HIV Hep C testing. We've got approval to do some of the recovery groups as well as doing some friends and family groups and other things. They're kind of, we'll see where it goes as we build things and as we do things. And like I said, everything is community. So I'm very cautious always never to push it further, always staying within what they want. Uh, Ultimately,
Hmm.
the goal is a harm reduction center. It is an area where it's a lot of what the original idea for this was, and we're doing the best we can to make that come to fruition. Is my vision really is to have these centers in these areas because there's areas. I come to this from 4.5 years of being the outreach coordinator for HIPS, and one thing you
Okay.
know when you're working with outreach is every place you go, you're as a coordinator is in every meeting for every neighborhood for everything, and
Hmm.
everybody wanted to deal with a problem. And then if they actually felt like they accomplished it, I had a call from another neighborhood next week. And it was just
Hmm.
moving people around. So ideally, I want to get it so that there's a place where people can be safely go, where folks can get water. Like one of the big issues in a lot of neighborhoods is, the small businesses and restaurants get asked to use the bathroom. Well, there's consequences if they say yes, and there's consequences if they say no. So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
folks can actually go and use the bathroom and just have people there who understand. Like I'm a social worker. Someone going through a mental break in something is something I'm capable of handling in a way that might not work out on the streets.
Yeah. I do think that is interesting of having it rooted in the place. I mean, do you think it would be primarily serving people in the area?
Yes, just really.
Yeah.
The idea really is to have these things in a manner that is benefit. One thing that DC does a lot that's I don't get is it seems like they often put things in places they're not needed and try to import people to them, which
Mm.
is to me very backwards. Because what we're looking at is areas where there is a certain element and thing happen. And
Hmm.
from that thing happening, we are actually helping like the folks who don't want folks on the streets, who don't want them like asking for money every time they walk by. That's understandable too. And this gives a consolidated place to get people off the streets too. Like
Hmm.
part of the original model with the hotspots included we originally started this with the idea of a church basement, but the church didn't pan out that we would be able to be open during like nightlife hours because it seemed like Howard and Wright Proper were getting hit with problems. So it's kind of you don't want to import people, you don't want to import a problem, but you want to contain it in a safe place and that for everybody.
Yeah. No, I do think that makes sense. Yeah, and that is interesting. I know that they're trying to open up a new center, I believe on Park Road up in Columbia
Mhm.
Heights, or DBH is working on that.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. That'll be a resource in the area as well.
I'm
Um,
working over there with Lincoln Westmore. And I have two hot spots. The other one is over here in Southwest Waterfront, and I'm looking at spacing they have spacing that's not connected to any housing over here, so it might work differently in that case. But either way, the goal is to be there and be able to. I feel like often harm reduction organizations have problems because they look at things as these are my clients and this is what I do, who I serve. Our vision here is to work holistically with the community because really everybody wants the same thing: safety, peace, just
Yeah,
everybody kind of wants the same thing. So you've got to kind of just figure out ways to bring it to everyone.
definitely. I'm curious if anybody else has any questions. Anybody in the audience, I can promote you if you. I think you can raise your hand, so feel free to do that if you have a question or want to chat.
Means they're being very good at informing people so they have no questions, or that's not that interesting.
I think there's a lot of interesting things to talk about, but I don't want to suck up too much of the airtime. I don't know, Captain Murphy, if you had any questions from, I'm sure MPD has worked with HIPS for a while, so I am curious what the relationship is there, and if there's any other ways that MPD can better help HIPS or HIPS can better help MPD with coordinating responses. Any thoughts or?
I mean, we try to maintain a good relationship with the police with everybody. There's and any like any of the officers in that area will tell you the same thing. You're not going to arrest your way out of it. So I'm hopeful of being able to offer solutions that aren't just arrest people, bring them back, arrest people, bring them back.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Bailey, have you noticed more of a police presence while you're out assisting your
Yeah.
clients?
Yes. Since that shooting happened, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there's been some safety meetings, and I've noticed folks responding to that. I'm on the task force in the area, but
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. And the officers have been great with us being able to provide resources without that being a problem, while also taking care of the things that are real problems there.
Okay. So hopefully you have my information. If you recognize anything or any additional assistance you may need, don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Oh, I appreciate you.
All
Thank you.
right.
You're
Yeah.
saying, of course.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we have an attendee who wanted to ask a question. So, okay, Chris, I'm going to allow you to talk with this button. Go ahead.
Thanks,
It's like a
Francois,
call-in
and
show.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Francois, and Johnny. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having
It's
me.
really interesting to hear about all that HIPS is doing throughout our neighborhood, and I'm just curious to know if there's any sort of trend that you can make to where things are today and how it might be as we look ahead to the summer. We're starting to see, better weather, today being a classic example of that, which tends to, in my opinion, be the start of an increase in crime as people are out and about later and more throughout the summer. Is the same true when it comes to the assistance that your clients need? Does that
Yeah.
increase as well? And how, as a community, can we help?
Overdoses go up. People being out and about goes up. Everything goes up when the weather's nicer, honestly. And we're already seeing. I was down at the 7th and T site working the other day, and it was just like all of a sudden the weather got nice and everybody came out like the Wizard of Oz, like from all angles. So we're just gonna we will be extending hours more during the summer. We'll be working more with other things like farmers markets, and I usually work with Leah and Howard on the First Friday art walks. So you're definitely right in that in the summer things tend to get up there a little more. And
Thank you.
as far as I can see, like the only thing I can do is keep like persevering on it.
Well, we
Yep.
appreciate that.
Elaine, go ahead. I know, I believe Elaine, I don't know if we've met yet. I don't believe you were able to join the first meeting, but I'm happy to see you here now. This meeting.
I'm sorry I wasn't able to go in the first meeting. I'm just kind of curious. I know that we should, meet people who are, who have these issues where they're at, right? So this is a safe place. So, but what about the next steps? I mean, when you said that this is a generational problem, your grandfather, your father, you know,
Mhm.
ODing and getting drugs. I mean, I see this as kind of like a huge failure on not just on our system. So how does HIPS work with the recovery and trying to get people really off the streets? I mean, this is a social failure and a
Great.
failure of this human misery, as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed. Well,
Yeah.
I'm the right person to ask about the recovery one. I do most of the recovery stuff with him. So I personally am 11 years sober. A lot of why I do this is because when I look at my life, 11 years ago, I was living in a squat. I was separated. I was unemployed. I had a 10th grade education. I was broke. Now I have a job, a career, a degree. We bought a house, my marriage is back together. So I can see, and when I always tell people the chief thing I did to make that happen is not die and not go to prison. And that's where we're at with folks is we're trying to help them along and keep them going and push them towards any positive change they want to go towards. One of my favorite statistics is that people who engage with a needle exchange are 5 times more likely to go into recovery. And one of the reasons is because that's actually a thing that we work very closely with, particularly since I've been there because I'm also a smart recovery facilitator. We now have 3 in-person smart groups, one in that neighborhood, in the Shaw neighborhood at the Shaw Library from 6 to 7:30 on Thursdays. We have another one. The next closest one is every third Monday over at MLK. Then we also do have one at the HIPS office and one at the Southwest Library right now. We also have an MAT program. I'm not big on the 12-step thing, but Miss Kathy, who works with us, is. So if that's somebody's path, then I know just who to call. I work very closely with Ann over at the stabilization center. If someone needs to just get away and get off things for a moment, then I'm very happy to put them in a car and get them over there. As far as younger people, I've been working with Latin American Youth Center we're doing some trainings and teachings and real open conversations with the Latin American Youth Center. And I'm definitely open to anything else. My average client is over 50, but we are connecting to all levels of folks out there. But yeah, it's a lot of it is when you're looking for help, admitting to having a problem is actually admitting to a felony. So we build this trust with folks, and then people talk to us. Most of my team, most of HIPS, period, has lived experience in some manner. So we can really kind of guide and build trust. And then we know every next step, whether it's MAT, inpatient, stabilization, or just recovery groups. I don't know if that helps. I have no idea.
Yeah, I actually have a follow-up question because
Okay, cool.
I'm helping a friend get through an alcoholism. So I'm
Mm.
been to Arch over in Florida Street, right
Mhm.
before by New York Avenue.
Okay.
I've complained to Brianne, when you walk in there, they make you sit there for 45 minutes. And if
Mm.
you are going through a mental or drug or alcohol, having to sit in the lobby, and they won't let you bring your bags in, so you have to leave your bags outside. It's just, and I've talked to different people. It's the service, the city services for these people are awful. Trying to get a social worker is awful. You have to fax it over to DBH. It's this incredible, incredible, awful services of trying to work with either some or Woodley House and trying to get doctors, and even with Medicaid, it is a awful system.
Agreed. Are you talking about over in 1313, that building, or?
It's on Florida, kind of near where the Wendy's was. I think
Okay,
it's called
I know
Arc.
where we're at. Yeah, I work with I do work with the stabilization side of that, but yeah, that's yeah, you need to be able. That's something that needs to happen. Period. That's something we try to provide within our staffing, funding, and abilities. Is people make decisions very quickly, and moments can change a path. And I like right now, one of the things we're doing is HIV Hep C testing. So I've set it up so that in any case, if somebody pops positive or negative, because we get on prep if they're negative, we have set up with clinics to like really walk people right on over and get them right in, because yeah, you can't leave people in crisis sitting there in a waiting room. I'm happy to talk about other places that might help with alcohol. I do think the stabilization center is a really great option over on, I think it's 35K Street. But yeah, I'm also happy to use whatever influence I have talking to different people about things.
Right. And I agree, but you're just like at the front end of it, you know. I mean, this is a life journey, and then if you don't have like the social services that are in the back end of it, people
Absolutely.
do go back in the street within 24 or 48 hours. And what I'm,
Uh-huh.
seeing is that people can't get rapid housing. You know, this, so as much as we pay in taxes, the social services and the net is awful. I mean, it is abysmal.
I truly wish I had that nicer things to say about housing. I don't have nicer things to say about housing.
And
There are very
and you
good
agree
people
with me,
working
right?
on it,
And
but
you agree with me.
ultimately it's not there.
Right.
And
And
I
this
mean, I
is the
do
reason
think
why people go back
Mhm.
generation after generation. You agree with me?
Absolutely. Oh,
but
absolutely.
I
And
think,
yeah,
and
that's something I always think about myself, as like I do look at part of my career as trying to give people the ability to have the privilege that I very easily had. And one of the biggest things is just I had a house to go back to and sit and watch TV. That alone is a lot different than being dropped off back in an encampment where people are shooting up, you know.
Right.
So I so agree with you, and I'm happy to work in any way I can with anybody I can to do it. The recovery groups are a great thing for the, because there's folks there who always help.
definitely, and I think that that is what we hope this committee can focus on is,
Mhm.
obviously, Johnny, your organization is one part of the work that's being done to help people and to ameliorate the impacts on the community. And there's a
That's
lot of other actors involved that I hope to bring in to the Public Safety Committee so we can talk with them more. And I know that many of them are at the T Street Task Force meeting as well.
mhm.
Um, but, I
That's
am
part of.
curious just to say again.
Oh, I was gonna say that's part of what we do though, is we're trying to tie things together. Like for
Yeah.
instance, if someone comes to me looking for housing, I have a
Yeah.
contact at Miriam's. Miriam
Yes.
has her own issues trying to accomplish the task from there, but at least I can get them in to talk to somebody. If they're going into recovery, I have rooms I can get almost immediately at
Mhm.
Oxford houses. If
Yeah.
somebody's looking for stabilization, there's that option. If someone's looking for mental
Mhm.
health, there's the Clarendon Center. So we are trying to work with everybody, and if there's anybody who else who wants to work together or who knows someone we should try to reach out to, this is a holistic project, and it takes a village.
Totally. And I do want to say, this committee I think can be a resource to help with some of those discussions. And, as you go forward with looking into potentially developing a new space here in the neighborhood, I think that this can be a place where we can talk about that. We can bring in members of the community, and ultimately we can pass a resolution
Awesome.
for or against, depending on how the committee members see it. But that is something that this committee can weigh in on.
That is something I'd really like, because like I said, we're in a little bit of a like an in-between ground. This is not the center that, I envision, but this is an actual space that we can do a lot of good with and a lot of good in. But I always want as much neighborhood feedback and understanding, and make sure we after you mentioned the T Street Task Force. After the T Street Task Force,
Mhm.
myself and my coordinator hold a additional meeting right afterwards. We just always put
Yeah.
it in the chat, and that's nothing is really created without other people in the community discussing it with us. So that's everybody's
Mhm.
chance to tell me where I'm screwing up.
Sometimes you need space to just talk.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. Great. Well, I'm conscious of time because we've got a lot of other things we want to get to tonight. But thank you so much again, Johnny,
Oh,
for coming
thank,
in on late
thank you.
notice as
I
well.
appreciate you.
Definitely hope you can come to some future meetings. I'll keep you posted on what we're working on. But yeah,
Please do. I'd
definitely
love
want
to.
this to be a place where we can talk more about HIPS and the center that you're considering, and all the issues related to the work you do. So yeah,
Oh,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me.
Of course,
All right.
anytime.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is just our crime readout and incident report. So I know, Karen, like I said, is sick and can't be with us, but thankfully we have Captain Murphy here. So I wasn't sure, Captain Murphy, if you were able to provide us any updates on what's been happening in the neighborhood over the last month.
Well, I'm Lieutenant Will. I'm here as well. I'll jump in and like over from the past year, actually our robberies are down 60%. Our violent crime is down 38%. Our theft from autos are also down, but our overall theft, our general theft, is actually up. Over this month, we're tracking 5. Currently, one was involved in an electric vehicle. The charger was taken,
Interesting.
and then a package was taken off of an individual's porch. 2 bikes were parked inside of a trash it's like a trash room attached to an apartment building, and I guess
Yeah.
they were going to an event, and the bikes were taken from there, and one bike was taken from a backyard, and the last one was an
Yeah.
individual. They entered his room and took some electronics. However, we're tracking also. We've had 7 ADW arrests this month. It's assault with a dangerous weapon. We've had
Okay.
22 robbery arrests. 18 arrests were involving burglaries, and 2 of the suspects were from Leedray Park, and the actual burglaries occurred in Leedray Park as well.
They were from the area.
Correct.
Okay.
And also, as of yesterday, there's been approximately 22 narcotic-related arrests in PSA 306. 11 of these arrests were in the 1800 block of 7th Street Northwest, 4 in the 600 block of T Street, and the surrounding areas.
So, sorry, those arrests, what were they for, possession or for selling?
Correct. We have for possession and distribution.
Okay.
Right.
And sorry, how many of them? How many arrests?
22. As of about 22, and
Okay.
we just got another one just now. So yeah.
Got it. And
right.
is that through the drug-free zones, or is that through something else? I'm curious.
It's just through our proactive initiative
Okay.
with suppressing the violent crime and the drug sales and all of the complaints we received from that particular community.
Got it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. That's helpful to understand what's going on.
Mhm.
Some quick questions, and other committee members feel free to jump in. First, are you seeing more crime related to electric vehicles, or like specific types of theft, or is that just a one-off type of thing?
This was the one-off thing. The individual was charging his vehicle, and I guess someone just took the charge in the cord and kept walking. So
Okay.
that's the only one I'm tracking for this month, and I haven't seen any others. I'm not sure if any other individuals on the call have experienced anything involving the electric vehicles and chargers taken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Got it. And I guess I'm curious, when there are the drug-free zones, because I know that that's an initiative that MPD has used, and that the council passed. Are there sources of information to find out what happens? How many are there incident reports when people are asked to disperse? Are there, is there data on arrests that happen when those drug-free zones are used?
It is. We have a records management system, and all of our arrests are recorded. Some of the information is public record, some is internal, but
Mhm.
it's definitely documented. You have to get report numbers for all arrests. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess community members, because I know there's the crime cards, but I guess we would have
Right.
to sort of search those up and then find the ones that are happening in the area.
Right. And there's various ways you can do it and locate
Mhm.
this information. The information is available. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Great. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for the update. I know there was, I just wanted to make sure, were there any major shootings in the area? I know there was one a few weeks ago,
Yes.
or like 1 week ago, actually.
The one on March
Yeah.
12th. Yeah, March
Yes.
12th.
Yeah.
Right. That was in the 2016 Georgia Avenue. The 4
Mhm.
individuals were inside the jury's carry out. around 10 o'clock p.m. They left around
Yeah.
10:13 as they were walking south on Georgia Avenue on the east side of the street. Two individuals were approaching them. They turned around and there was an exchange of words, and then one individual brandished a firearm and shot an individual in the chest and then fled the scene. The victim resides in in the Leroy Park area. Yeah.
Okay. Do we know? Sorry, was it a fatal shooting or was it?
No, it wasn't fatal.
Okay.
It
Okay.
wasn't fatal.
Okay, that's great to hear. That's good to
Yeah,
hear.
he was treated and treated and released.
Sorry, and do you all have any suspects? Just to clarify.
No, there are no suspects right now. They're still looking at camera footage. So our detectives, they're currently working the case right now. They're trying to get a video from half smoke, and certain things were documented, and there were some conflicting stories, but they're still working the case. Yeah.
Got it. And do we suspect that that's targeted, that's random? Because it's always hard to tell. It feels weird. It seems like there must be some, I don't want to say reason, you know what I mean? But there must be motivation.
Right now we don't know, but the two individuals, and it's not that it was time. One group was walking south, the other one was walking north. There was an exchange of words shortly after, like 6 seconds. There was an exchange of words when an individual displayed a firearm, discharged one round, and then he ran, and then a magazine was located in the block. A 17-round magazine was located where the other individual returned and threw it by the juries. So we don't know the relation yet, but they're still working on it. And after last month there was a shooting on W, and shortly after, what we've done is we've had officers in the area, but instead of officers just leaving that, we're having face-to-face relief now. So officers are relieving the other officers prior to them checking off, because oftentimes individuals, they'll see us in the neighborhood, and once we leave, they'll pull up immediately following and commit their acts and then leave. So moving forward, we've implemented face-to-face relief in Leroy Park and Columbia Heights to alleviate, the violence.
Are you saying that there will be there's like crimes of like there's retribution that's happening after officers are leaving? I'm trying to understand.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is individuals have well, I don't want to be too transparent, but oftentimes there are videos made one neighborhood saying bad things about another neighborhood. And that community, those members don't like it, and they want to come down and they want to retaliate. However, when they see us, they won't retaliate. But oftentimes, if we leave, that's when we've seen the incidents occur. So to fix that, we've implemented face-to-face relief.
Okay, we've got a quick question from a community member, and then I think we'll have to move on. But Chris, I'm going to allow you to talk. There you go. Should be good.
Awesome. Lieutenant, thank you so much for being here. I love hearing the statistics and the idea that crime is going down or the incidents are improving throughout the city. When you mentioned those stats at the beginning, the percentage that crime has gone down in the various categories, is that citywide or is that specific to our neighborhood?
Great question. That's specific to PSA 306. We have it broken down in the 3rd district for each PSA. Excellent. So all the stats I'm providing is from PSA 306 only.
Fantastic. Great to hear it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Captain, for joining us again. Really helpful. Yeah, and we'll move on to the next thing, unless you had something else you wanted to say.
Yes. Captain Murphy also shared some information with me. We also what we really would like is for business owners to install cameras and also provide callback information, because when burglaries happen during after hours, we have no way of contacting the key holders. So it would be great if, business owners would start establishing, installing cameras and also providing us with their contact information so that we can reach them after hours.
Sorry, so it would be helpful for business owners to install the cameras, you're saying, through Camera Connect and...
Correct. And also make sure that we have contact information for them, so that when these incidents are occurring at 2 a.m, we can reach out to them so they can come out and they can report the incident and give us an accurate account of what was taken, what wasn't taken, or the damage that was caused.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. And Elaine, go ahead.
Is is there a database that you could? Is there a database in which you submit it? How do you submit this information so that the police have it? We have like a lot of businesses, we have churches that get broken into, and they come to a LaJoy Park Civic Association. They tell us that, like, look, the police aren't doing it, and then we have the LaJoy Park Civic Association. Matt and Mike have a better relationship with the police because we talk to you guys all the time, but some of the businesses don't. So, is there a database, and we'll get that out to our LaJoy Park Civic Association, let like churches and businesses know.
We don't have, there's not a database, but oftentimes when there's certain locations, it's connected. There's contact information in the system. I'll touch base and try to get some accurate information on how that information can be uploaded so that we can have access to it.
Okay, okay. If there's somebody that they should email directly or
Right. And if you look in the chat, I have my email there, and I'll follow up and get the exact location where it's I can share this into the database so that we can contact the business owners.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
sounds good.
If you wouldn't mind forwarding that to me whenever, if you reach out, Elaine, that'd be super helpful. And sorry, I might have mistaken because of the Zoom name. Is this Lieutenant or is this Captain Murphy?
Oh, I'm Lieutenant Wheeler, Captain
Lieutenant
Murphy.
Wheeler.
On the
Okay,
line.
got it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I just saw on the
Okay.
Zoom. Okay, got it. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Wheeler. Really appreciate it. Okay, moving on. I wanted us to discuss some potential resolution areas. We talked about it some, last month, and I wanted to go over a few things with everybody, as well as just discuss with you all, what interest areas do you have, and I was hoping our committee members could take the lead on a certain resolution topic, and do some research and maybe set up meetings as needed, come up with ideas for potential resolutions that we could pass. But the first thing I wanted to discuss, and I'm sad that Karen can't be on right now, but as many of us may know, we have a new U.S. attorney in D.C., Ed Martin. He was appointed by Trump and is an interim U.S. attorney, but he has now been nominated to be, the permanent U.S. attorney for D.C. I personally have a number of concerns about Ed Martin, and I think that it would be worthwhile for the committee to consider a resolution, and I need to check with the Office of the ANC to understand whether we are allowed to pass such a resolution, potentially either opposing his confirmation by the Senate or looking at whether we can strongly caution the senators who will be deciding whether or not to confirm him. Just briefly, my reservations stem from, many places, as you may have seen in the news, but he was very associated with the Stop the Steal movement before January 6th and gave a speech beforehand. He represented one of the January 6th defendants while also serving as U.S. attorney and co-sponsoring a brief asking for that January 6th defendant for the charges to be dropped. So it was a massive conflict of interest. And he's opened a number of really frivolous investigations that seem intended to harass people in DC and, really create a chilling effect to prevent people from speaking out against the administration. So those are just some of my concerns, but I am curious what committee members think about that, whether that's an issue that we think it's worthwhile to weigh in on or not, and whether people just have other thoughts on that.
My main thought is that I agree, and I think it's worthwhile. And I would be happy to, however, if this is something we're able to do, I would be happy to help with however is necessary.
Great. Do the other committee members have any other thoughts?
This is Elaine. I'm a federal employee, and
Mhm.
I'm not quite sure if this goes on, if I should have my name on this. I'll just, in the abundance of caution, just.
Yeah, totally understood. That's helpful to know.
Although I do agree with you guys, I just don't want my name to be on it.
Yeah, totally, totally. I think you'd be able to abstain or just not, not vote. I have to check the Robert Rules of Orders and everything, but I totally understand.
I don't know too much about the candidate, but I'll be happy to try to read up a little bit more.
Totally, yeah, and I'm happy to send along after the meeting. Like I had drafted a resolution. I wanted to draft another resolution that maybe is oppositional, but sort of expresses strong reservations about the Ed Martin, the interim U.S. attorney, and there is a chance that he won't. There is a serious chance that he might not be confirmed, from what I've heard. There's also a serious chance that he would be confirmed. So, we're going to have to work with whoever the U.S. attorney is because they have tremendous power to prosecute crimes in D.C. That's a very important role, and it's really unfortunate that as residents of the district, we aren't allowed to elect this office, like everyone is in other localities around the United States. But we don't have that because we're not a state. So anyway, I will send out some articles as well as some draft resolutions after the meeting, and people can look, and then I'm going to keep talking with other members of the commission, and we'll keep monitoring what's happening in the news. But ideally at the next meeting we could potentially vote on a resolution either opposing confirmation related to the U.S. attorney in some way. I think elevating this problem because I understand that many parts of the district government can't really speak. They can't speak out as much as they might want to because they're navigating a very tricky relationship with the federal government. But I do think it's important because not only for the concerns about you know his ethics and morality, but the fact that because he's fired so many prosecutors that worked on January 6 cases and demoted other prosecutors and is using the resources of the office for these investigations into political opponents, that's actively detracting from work that he could be doing to keep us safe. So, there's a serious question of um, just the functioning of the office and whether it would be effective under him or not because so many resources are not going towards prosecuting serious crimes in DC. Anyway, I think we've probably talked enough about that, but other topics that we discussed last time. I don't know if committee members want to share on some of the what we talked about last time or any potential resolutions. I know we talked about police training, safe passage, drug treatment, providing grants or other support for students in the area.
Uh, just in terms of the, I think we spoke last about trying to have some activities for children, right? Programs for underserved youth, at-risk youth in the neighborhood. Just at this point, I'm still just trying to make some partnerships with some different organizations. We actually have some students that work for DC government, perhaps like DC public schools, and so we're just trying to create some partnerships first with them and try to figure out like what is a good way to begin to implement a program like that. Like as we discussed before, we're trying to take some troubled youth perhaps and develop some type of metric to show that our martial arts programs are helping them, be it go to school, higher grades, something like this. So they seem very receptive to it. They're very interested into it, very interested in talking more about it, and actually had a few candidates in terms of students that might be a good fit. So we'll just continue to. That's just kind of the update of where we're at. So we'll just continue to work on that with some local public schools to see where we can get some traction there.
I'm curious. So wait, sorry, when you said that someone was who was interested in talking more about it or helping with it, did you say that was
Well, I
schools
talked
or?
to I talked to somebody who works for Beat the Streets. So they are also a not-for-profit, and they have some connections with DC Public Schools, and I have a couple of officials from DC Public Schools too that I'm trying to talk with. They were very interested in trying to create another program. Beat the Streets, they focus a lot on boxing, and I think that's good too. But now with the rise and popularity of MMA, I think more kids are kind of drawn to that type of thing, or at least seen it on TV, so they can say like, "Oh, well, this might be something I want to try." And
Mhm.
that's not really what we're not trying to teach people to be more dangerous so much as we are trying to teach them the martial arts, right? So a lot of the what we want to focus on is the grappling, which is it's known to create good camaraderie amongst people, teach people good
Mhm.
character building, life skills that they could otherwise use outside of the academy. And so that did raise a lot of interest. One of the higher ups in Beat the Streets actually is one of our students, so I had approached him. He's also a football coach, and he coaches a bunch of other things for the
Mhm.
district. And so he's going to try to make um, some introductions with people that he knows that could possibly try to move a project like that forward.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting. And I think that, you know, I'd be curious, and maybe you can take the lead on this in terms of as you're working on making this program a reality, what kind of resolutions could we pass to support that potentially? You know, whether it's urging DC public schools to create that metric that you were talking about, or to we support them, you know, working on a program like that we want the schools to be a partner in that.
You
So
know,
yeah,
we
I'm curious what you think in terms of what could the DC government do that we can advise them to do, that we can try to influence them to do.
give us 10 kids and
Mhm.
let's kind of track. The best thing I could think of is, trying to lower the truancy rate. Like, okay, if this is something they're interested in, one of the
Mhm.
one of the
Yeah, yeah.
covenants they would have to uphold is, they have to go to school and you have to take the tests, and we also have to have some type of connection with their teachers as well, because we want to kind of work very closely with the academic side, right? So the idea is to have them kind of go, yeah, 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 you and I both know, like going through school, sometimes the classes are great,
Mhm.
sometimes they're not, but either way,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
if they have a reason for why they should continue to do it, being they get a benefit of going and training martial arts, and hanging out with some peers, and developing themselves, perhaps they might be more inclined to go to school and do the things they don't want to do, right? So I believe, I have, as we get into summer, I'm trying to pull together our resources, that being our instructors, to see what kind of availability they have and what times they have. We also have always a concern that we're not equipped to just be a facility to house and take care and raise kids,
Mhm.
because we obviously have members at our school too that that come in, and they contribute to the community, they pay their dues, and they expect a certain service. So this would have to be perhaps in a time that's less peak times. And if it does work out, and those students, we start to see some progress and some changes in their behavior, and perhaps being good upstating citizens, and perhaps we can give them a scholarship and come train in the evening classes, and the ones that are more populated, and perhaps come train with competitors. So that's kind of the idea. Like, I think right at this point right now we have a good time between 2 and 4 o'clock, or 12 to 3 o'clock,
Mhm.
where we can take them for a couple hours and come in and see how it goes. So that would be like the beginning. I would first have to see who is available. Second thing is, what schools would be interested. Do you have some students that would be some good candidates for this? Perhaps some type.
Would this target middle and high, or what's
I
the?
would say middle school would probably a better age to start with. High schoolers, and when you get certain teenagers, it's hard to change
Yeah,
their minds and about the way they think. But I think
whether
middle
or not they want to go
school,
to school. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, middle schoolers and elementary school kids are still very malleable, and I think we can positively influence them a lot better. And so that
No,
would
I
be a
think
good start.
yeah. And I think that would be great because I've talked with Karen, our admin consultant, and Risa, our other admin consultant, who do a lot of work with kids and relate to social services and youth. And I think it is important, like we were talking about at the last meeting, that we're not only focusing on the negative things, the things that can go wrong, and crime that can happen, but also what young people can contribute, what they can do, positive role models, positive mentorship, helping them. And yeah, I think that's really important. Um, Thanks for letting us know you have a hard stop, Claire. I definitely want to try to keep these meetings as short as I can. Oh, we might have lost her. In any case, yeah, the other potential resolutions we discussed were related to safe passage. Leah, I was wondering if you had any interest in doing some more research on that, trying to find out more about the program. I know that the deputy mayor for public safety and justice, Lindsay Appiah, if you've heard of her, she's very involved with the Safe Passage program, and I am, you know, curious to hear, right now it doesn't actually it's not a, it doesn't serve elementary schools. I'm curious why and whether there is a role. I mean, I think the idea is that elementary school students don't walk as far, but as we've talked about with Johnny, there can be people using drugs outside of these schools, not just Cleveland, but other places that can, be a risk, and that it might be helpful to have some, safety ambassadors or, safe passage ambassadors in the area.
I'd be super
Would
down.
you be interested in that?
Yeah, super down. You, I think, answered one of the questions I was about to ask, because
Sure, yeah, yeah.
the main thing we did talk about was wanting to see the why and if it could be extended, right, to elementary school. That was like the big thing we had talked about. So that would be, and then the name you had said, I was writing it down, and then I don't think I
You're
spelled her
totally
name right.
good.
What was her name again? The woman you said was very involved in the program?
Lindsay, Lindsay, and then Appiah, Appiah.
Cool.
Yeah, I can try to put you all in contact with each other. Because I attended a meeting that you did about Safe Passage, and it seems like a really great program from everything I've heard. I do think there's could be a little bit more done to study the effectiveness of it, just to see, if this is a really good program, then we should fund it more. If it's not working as well, then how can we, improve it? But yeah, I am curious to see like whether we can get more resources from Safe Passage in our area, because we also have, in 1B, there's a lot of schools, not just elementary schools, but also middle schools. And so how can we try to get them to, support our area more?
Yeah,
Great.
I could.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no, definitely. I'll connect you guys, and then we can look into, whether there's a resolution or a letter or other way that we can just, assist with that. Yeah. Let's see, was there anything else on the docket? I still want to look more into the ways that we can use the ANC's money, potentially to give out scholarships or grants. I think we have to call them, we're calling them sponsorships right now. But we can support various programs. So, for example, out of school time programs, things like that. So, Nakapon, I don't know if you know of a lot of programs that might exist in the area, but I think it would be helpful to understand what programs are happening, and then are there ways to support them. I also want to be conscious of, like, are there uh, youth-led organizations or clubs or things like that that we could support that are like within the schools. I think that could be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, sorry. Oh, perhaps we do have a lot of requests to do, on-site kind of after-school programs, and we don't really have the I guess the financial backing to be able to do that. And so that might be something that we could try to figure out too. As we do, we have a lot of partnerships with a lot of the local schools like Meridian Public Charter School, and so we've strengthened pretty good relationships with them, just because we would really want to make sure they have a place to send their kids to if they want the training. But I will also talk to them more, all the registrars, all the assistant principals that we know, to see what kind of programs they have, and perhaps decipher other kids, and try to connect. How about this? I'm trying to connect more the community, so that everybody knows what they're doing when it comes to the youth. Because I definitely feel that is an area that needs some strengthening, and also, that can really help to kind of keep the neighborhood a lot safer.
Specifically, like what youth are doing after school, you're saying? Or
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that would be super helpful. And yeah, I'm not quite sure how we can fit into that, but I think there's a way that we can maybe provide some money or provide some support for some of the programs in the area.
If anything, just getting people to work a little bit more closely together, and just know that there's a leadership, a management, that we can all kind of connect to, because we all kind of work in our own little bubbles, I think we're all trying to do the best we can, and we see what's going on around. But it'd be nice to know,
Totally, yeah.
we're all just trying to connect here, and the ANC is trying to make this place a better place.
Yeah, well, definitely, if you have ideas for how to try to break out of those bubbles, maybe think about it for the next month, and then we can try to make something happen, whether that's like an event that we can put on that we can sponsor, or bringing in some guest speakers, or holding a separate meeting. Like, definitely let me know if you have ideas for how to do that, since I think it seems like you're pretty plugged into what's going on there.
Try to be.
Yeah, no, it's not always easy. There's a lot going on. Thanks for passing along the Camera Connect information. Definitely a program that I encourage people to take advantage of. I've been looking into it. So yeah, that's for residents and for businesses. Great. Well, being conscious of time, since I know it's just past 8. The last few things I wanted to say before we close out are, you know, r- recruitment. I'm really hoping that we can recruit more committee members. Right now we have 5 with Elaine joining as well. And so, if you know anybody else in your community, please, 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 like, send an email to me, looping me in with them, and we can hopefully get them added. I still have to figure out some rules in terms of how many committee members can come from each single member district, and potentially we could lift some of those rules, I think, to make it easier, because more members is better. And then the last thing was, the 3 CAC meetings. There's a meeting this month on March 27th. And Ed Martin, the interim U.S. attorney, will be attending. So I really think that is a good forum to ask some pretty hard-hitting questions, hear his answers, and get a sense of him in person. So I encourage folks to attend if they can. I can send out the information for that, but it is online for the Third District Citizens Advisory Council. And then, of course, the T Street Task Force meetings, which I believe happen the first Thursday of every month, if I'm remembering correctly. And I want to go to those as well, but I also have a job, like many of us, so it's hard to get to all these meetings. But those ones are very important. Yeah. Well, unless there was any other announcement that folks wanted to make. All right. I move to adjourn the meeting, the second meeting of the Public Safety Committee. Do I have a second? All right. All those in favor, can just raise your hand. I don't know if you can vote, Lieutenant, but I appreciate the support. All those opposed? All right. Sounds good. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your evening. Really appreciate your help and coming on a Tuesday night.